just want to give a quick disclaimer at the beginning of this video. Hi, this is Editing Melissa here. I am sorry for the noise in the background of this particular video. I am stitching in an outdoor shed, which is now my office, in July in Tennessee. And so I do have an air conditioning unit going in the background. I will try in the future to turn it off just for the purpose of making a video. But as you can imagine, in the afternoon, it is super hot. So I do have that air conditioning unit going, and I'm sorry for that background noise. Your first step, as you may have guessed, is to stitch your zipper placement lines. And there they are. Your next step is going to be to place your zipper between these placement lines. I usually call them a railroad track. So you place it right between these lines and you want to tape it on either end. The orientation of the zipper is your choice. I like mine going left to right. This is the top of my school bus and this is the bottom, so I'm going to do mine this way. I also want to note that how long my zipper is. This is either a 12 or a 14-inch zipper. It is huge, but it's the only yellow zipper that I had. So it doesn't matter the size that you have. It can be too long, it just can't be too short. So tape down your zipper on both sides where you're comfortable, and then stitch the tack down for the zipper. Before I move on, I just want to note that in this tutorial, I will be using a contrasting thread whenever possible. This is just so you as the viewer can see my steps clearly. Normally when I'm stitching out a zipper bag, I use a matching thread to the zipper or to the fabric when I'm doing things like top stitching and tack downs. But for the purposes of a tutorial video, that is why I'm using a contrasting thread color. Now I want you to take your hoop off of your machine and flip it over. Don't unhoop your project, just flip it over. This is the back of my hoop, or I use Durkee Easy Frames, but this is just like if you had a 5x7 hoop in front of you. So this is going to be the inner lining of your school bus zipper bag. I'm using this little school print, and this is going to be the bottom portion. So here's what I want you to do. You see where your zipper is tacked down? Those are the placement lines, those are the tack down lines. This is how your lining is going to look when it's finished, right? You see how the print is going this way. This is the top of my bag, this is the bottom of my bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it like this. This is how it's going to be in the end. But for right now, we need to flip it over this way. And I want you to line this top edge with the placement line of your zipper. Okay? That line right there, the bottom one. So this is the top of my bag, this is the bottom of my bag. The print was this way. Now it's upside down and wrong, right side down. And it looks kind of weird, but this is exactly how it goes. It needs to line up with that placement line of your zipper. You're going to tape both sides and then flip your hoop over and return it to your machine. Now, when you return your hoop to your machine, you want to make sure that that lining piece stays flat and exactly where you put it, and that it doesn't fold over or wrinkle for this next step, okay? Very important. And now you're going to do what I like to call mirroring that lining fabric. You're going to take your front bottom piece, mine is yellow. You can see this is the right side. I'm going to flip it over to where the right side is down, and I'm going to place one of those longer edges to, it's kind of hard to show with one hand because I don't have my tripod out right now, but you're going to line one long edge of this yellow fabric up with the bottom of your zipper. See? Right there. Just like that. And then you're going to pin that piece into place, or you can tape it. The next step is going to simply stitch a line to tack down this front fabric and the lining fabric. I like to say that these fabrics are mirroring each other right now, because if you look underneath, there's my lining piece and there's my front piece, and they are mirroring each other. They are both lined up with that bottom part of the zipper. So pin that down or tape it and run that tack down line that will run just right here, and then come back. Okay, now you can see that I've got that tack down line. Again, I stitched this in black for contrast so you can easily see it. If I were stitching this out not for a tutorial, I would have done it in yellow or maybe white. just so you don't have that dark thread under there. So next, you're going to take this front piece of fabric and flip it over that tack down stitch. Okay, you're going to just flip it right over, and you're going to pin it or clip it and stitch the top stitching, which will stitch around the school bus, and this will just give you a nice good basting stitch, if you will, for all of the details of the school bus. So I'm definitely going to do that one in yellow, and I will be right back. Now you can see that I've got the top stitching done on the bottom portion of my school bus. You can see, if you look back there, that my lining piece is still up and out of the way. I have not touched it since I put my hoop back on my machine and it was tacked down. Okay, it's still just out of the way. So next I'm going to stitch all of the details of the school bus. That's like the windows, the stripes, the lights, the wheels, the face. I'm going to stitch all of those, leaving the lining piece out of the way. You still don't touch that one, and then I will come back. Now you can see that I've stitched all the details on the bottom portion of the school bus bag. I did skip the little pink cheeks on this particular project. I just didn't want them on there this time, no big deal. And now I removed my hoop. I'm going to flip it over. You're going to remove any pins or tape. I already did that before I started my video, but you're going to remove any pins or tape that you have that were holding this liner piece out of the way, and you're going to flip that liner down into his permanent home. This is where it's going to stay now. And you can see that my lining has a print, and look, it's facing the right, it's oriented in the right direction because of the way that I flipped it earlier the correct way. So now you're going to pin or tape. If you use pins, be sure to pin from the front so you don't have sharp pokies on the back of your embroidery hoop. You're going to pin or tape this piece of lining tightly, but not too tightly, down into its permanent home so that you can move on to the front of your bag. All right, you can see here that I have pinned my lining piece out of the way from the front. There's the back of the pins. Now we're going to work on the top part of your bag. So you've got your lining piece, the same orientation as the bottom liner. So this is how it's going to end up in the end. So we're going to set it like this, and we're going to flip it, okay? And if you have made one of these before, or you were paying really close attention to the first part, you will notice that we're doing the exact same thing we did with the bottom portion of the bag. We flipped it over so to line up with the top placement stitch of that zipper, and now it looks like it's upside down and backwards, but it's not. It is exactly where it's supposed to be. So tape this piece down and replace your hoop to your machine, making sure that this piece stays in place as you return your hoop. All right, I've got my hoop returned to my machine. I'm feeling around with my fingers right there underneath my hoop to make sure that that lining piece stayed put when I replaced my easy frames back to my machine. Now we're going to deal with the top portion of the front. Okay, it's still yellow. So here's how it's going to end up. We're going to flip it, okay, right side down, and we're going to line it up with the top of that zipper. Your fabrics are now mirroring each other. They are both right side down to their respective sides of the hoop. See? And they are both lined up with the top of the zipper. So I'm going to pin this down because I don't have any tape on me, but you can easily tape this part because the only thing you're going to do in the next step is just go do and stitch a line to tack that down, just like we did the bottom portion. Okay, so tape it into place or pin it, whatever you need to do, and stitch that tack down line on top of that fabric sandwich. The next step is the exact same as you did with the bottom portion of your school bus. You can see that I used black contrasting thread just to show you that tack down line very visibly. Normally I would use a coordinating thread like yellow or white. So now you're going to take your front piece, the yellow piece for your school bus, and you're going to flip that over that tack down and pin it down, okay? And then it is going to stitch a top stitching just like you did on the bottom and leave your lining piece in place. I'm going to use yellow for my top stitching just like I did for the bottom portion of my school bus. I'm back, and you can see that little bitty portion of the top of your school bus. This is a 4x4 bag, so it is pretty small. And you can see that I did the top stitching and what is essentially kind of like a basting stitch to hold it down and secure it so that the details can stitch out. I did it in a coordinating color. I did yellow. So next, you're going to stitch the windows at the top of the bus, and your lining piece should still be out of the way underneath your hoop. You did not fold it over yet. It is just tacked down and hanging out under your hoop, waiting for the next step. So stitch the windows and then come right back. Now you can see that I've got the details of the top of my school bus stitched out. That's the 4 windows right there. So I remove my hoop. I'm gonna flip it over, and we're going to flip the liner piece out over into its permanent home as well. So now the back of your zipper bag should look like this. Okay, both of the lining pieces are flipped up into their permanent homes, and you can see the back of your zipper through right there in the middle. So you want to tape or pin this part of the lining down, and then you're going to replace your hoop to your machine, and we'll move on to the next step. The next step is very important to your project. First of all, look underneath your hoop or feel underneath your hoop. Make sure that all of the lining pieces did not fold over or wrinkle, and they're pinned or taped into place where they're going to go. You're going to grab the zipper pull, and I'm going to do it one-handed. I'm literally single-handed. You're going to grab your zipper pull and pull it open into approximately the middle of your bag, like the middle of the windows for this one. Okay, if you do not do this, then you are about to stitch your zipper pull outside of your zipper bag forever. So stitch your zipper pull out, and the next step is going to be the placement and tack down for a ribbon loop if you're using one. So first it will stitch a placement right here. On this particular bag, it's right here on this side of the zipper. And then you will place your ribbon loop or little piece of vinyl loop or your fold over elastic loop, which is what I'm using. You will place it across that placement line. Pretend that it's there already. And you want the folded edge towards the inside of your bag. Okay, when you're done, you're gonna flip your bag inside out, and this folded edge will pop out of the bag. Okay, so make sure your raw edges are out and your folded edge is in. Tape that down and then stitch the step that will tack that down into place. The last 2 machine work steps of your zipper bag are super easy. First, you're going to take your back piece of fabric, mine's yellow to match the front, and you're going to place it on top of your hoop and make sure that it covers well all of the outer stitches of your design. Okay, that's where it's going to stitch. And the next step is you want to pin that down, and the next step is going to stitch all the way around your zipper bag. Here you can see the top of my hoop. There's my outline of my zipper bag. Now I'm going to remove my hoop and flip it over. And this part is really easy. There's only one little trick to it. Well, actually 2 tricks. So you want to take your liner piece, the back liner, that's when you zip open the bag, what you will see when you look straight in. And you want to place it to cover that same step. Now, the 2 tricks are this. One, if it has an orientation, the way it is printed, it needs to go the same orientation as the front. Okay, mine does have an orientation, so I'm going, this is the top of the bag, this is the bottom of my bag. I'm going to place it accordingly, right side down against the project so far. And then the second tricky part of this step is to pin the fabric from the front, of course, and to make sure that when you replace your hoop onto your machine, none of the corners like fold up or there's no wrinkles in it that are going to stitch out into the project. All right, on my easy frame, here is my finished project. This is what it looks like from the front. This is what it looks like from the back. You see that there's a small hole at the top of this particular bag for the school bus that you will use for turning the project right side out. So at this time, you can unhoop, like once you've checked, okay, Very important rule of machine embroidery, always check the back of your hoop. Make sure nothing is folded or wrinkled, because once you take it out of the hoop, it is done. But right now, while it's in the hoop, there's still time to fix it. So if everything has stitched out like it's supposed to, you want to unhoop your project. Make sure you take out all those pins. One thing that I'm really bad about is leaving a pin or two in a zipper bag, and then when I'm trying to cut it or turn it or manipulate it, I stab myself in the finger. So don't do that. So make sure all your pins or tape are removed, and you can unhoop your project and take it to your cutting space. We are now at our cutting space, or I am, and I've got my amazing Kai cutting shears. And now we're going to trim around the zipper bag. And you want to leave maybe, oh, look at that. What did I just say? There's a pin. I missed a pin. That was definitely going to stab me in 90 seconds. Okay, so you want to cut around the outside of your project. Leave yourself maybe a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Just leave yourself enough so that you're not cutting into the stitches. Make sure you're holding your project straight up and down when you cut and not at an angle. When you get to the part that on the back you can see is open, that opening right there at the top, you're going to want to leave yourself a little tab. Okay, leave yourself a little tab so that you can turn it more easily. And while I'm yapping, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, check me out. See my school bus? You see how the camera's not in focus? You see, see my school bus? Okay, here's the front, and you see that tab at the top, okay? Now you're going to find the open layer of your bag, okay? Do you see that it's stitched all the way through everywhere except this right here? There's your turning hole, okay? Turn it right side out. Now this might take a minute, be patient. If you've got the 4x4 version, yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Ta-da! Now you've got your zipper bag completely inside out. So the next thing you're going to do is you need to close up your turning hole. Now, you need to just press in those tabs like this so that it's straight like this, and you have a few choices. You can stitch it closed by hand. I really stink at that, and I also hate stitching by hand, so I like to use this Fabric Fuse permanent double-sided fabric tape. And all you do to use that is cut off a piece. I'm gonna pretend that my tabs were still open. So I cut off a piece, I place it up against the outside stitch lines, the stitching right there. I make sure that it's right there at that edge so that it will close up nice and straight. This is great advice for if you're stitching like a square or rectangular bag. You want that edge to be nice and straight. So then you're going to push the tabs in carefully. Okay, that one's in. Now this one is in. Okay, see, now I'm nice and straight. Again, make sure it's nice and straight. This stuff is super sticky, so you really want to be careful when you're peeling the backing of the tape off. It might take a minute, and that's fine. Be patient, because this is the inside of your bag, and you want it to look neat. So I am exercising incredible patience. Okay, so I got the corner here. I'm going to just pull that tab off, and then I'm going to, it's hard to do in front of a camera, make sure those tabs stick together nice and straight. If I can get my little finger out of there, that would be great. Okay. Okay, so I press them together. There. I hope it really wasn't as complicated as I was making it look. It's just hard to do when you're holding it like in front of a phone. So there's my closed edge. It is sealed with that double-sided permanent tape. It is not going anywhere. Okay, last step. See that stabilizer? You don't want that. You need to see your zipper so you can turn your bag right side out. So if you use tear away, you can tear that away. I almost always use cutaway. And I'm going to now very, very, very carefully not cut through my zipper. Make myself a little hole with these amazing Ginger curved scissors. And then I'm going to trim that stabilizer away. Goodbye. There is my stabilizer, gone. At this point, I usually like to press my zipper bag before I turn it right side out, because you want it to be as flat and turned out as possible before you flip it inside out. My iron isn't on right now, so I'm not going to do it, but I would suggest if you have an iron handy, go ahead and give this a quick little press just to make sure it's nice and flat and all the edges are turned out appropriately before you do this final step. So the final step is to wiggle open your zipper, find your zipper pull, there it is, and you want to just wiggle it open and then turn your project right side out. This is the final turn, the final step. The school bus has a few edges, like the wheels, it has a few shaped edges that many zipper bags don't have. So take your time, be patient, because the final product is worth it, worth your patience. Stick out the front with his little headlight and close it up, give it a quick press, and there it is. There's your cute little zipper bag. See, he needs to be pressed because his face is a little wrinkly. So there it is, and there's your ribbon loop. See how the loop is on the outside? And that's it. I sure hope this tutorial has helped demystify the process of making this awesome little school bus zipper bag. You can find this and other great embroidery projects at designsbylittlebee.com. And I'll see you in the next video, and I'll chat with you in the Facebook group.